Good morning, my dear gamers. Sorry for the crowded setup, but Mashu here. Also, I wanted to apologize in case you hear some weird background noise. That's because, well, I hear some people working in the background, and there's also a lot of guests currently in my home. It's a bit of a special day, so yeah.
Look at that nice Lego creator set which I got gifted and I forgot to mention on Twitter.
Woohoo! Well, anyways, today we're gonna do a video that has been in the works for freaking forever. Like, I've just started recording right now, July, but I've promised this video since... Well, actually, I don't remember when. I'll leave a screenshot from my Discord server to tell you the exact time period of when I announced it. The video in question is this, the Lego Game Boy review. So this video has been planned for a long while in a special way. Basically on the channel, I've set some sub goals, and the first sub goal was 1,500 subscribers. If I reached that, I was gonna do the Lego Game Boy review as a promise. But a lot of stuff happened in the background and nobody gave me any time in order to do it. You know, I had a fever, I had a lot of family stuff, I got distracted with a lot of other side content, and basically, this review was just never came to be. And also tomorrow I'm getting the Tip Machette set from the Easy Connect Thomas range, and I did that realization and I was like, yeah, I better do this, because on Discord I even promised that this was going to be the next review rather than a choice between the Pizza Planet playset and the Game Boy. Like, nah, this is a full-on promise. Next one is Game Boy. So grab some snacks, sit back and relax as we review the Lego Game Boy. The box for this, as you can see, is fairly tall, very similar to the Tuxedo Cat set actually, and it's in the same style of Adults Welcome set, you know, 18 plus, large piece count, high price tag, rather than the flashy kid stuff. But nah, this thing is more like an Apple product. What you see is what you get. I find it really funny how they have to specify no light, sound, and digital play functions. Like, you thought a $60 Lego Game Boy was gonna work in 2025? Nah, mate. Top, we can see a few pictures and a 1-to-1 D-pad right there. The side, we have some logos, 2 cartridges, and the Game Boy itself. This side just has some info and translations. And the bottom is a bit ruined because of the big old warning sticker. Screw you, Lego stores in Chile, you suck. And for the back, again, not much to say because there's like basically no text. I mean, I guess you get dimensions and a few promo images, but that's it. There's nothing cool to like or funny to read. There's just nothing. Let's just get into the set. So from what I was able to scrap from this build, we have the instruction booklet. I'm not gonna show you any of like the reading parts because I rather recommend for you to buy the set and read it for yourself as a more personal experience. We have a bunch of leftover parts here from my build, and I'm pretty sure it came with an orange brick separator because I just had one over there in hand, so I think it came with this. Yet again, I got this back in like January or February, so my memory might be a bit scrubby. And as for the build itself, we have the Game Boy, we have 2 stands, 2 cartridges, and 3 displays. So let's go from the smallest things and then we'll work our way up to the biggest things. As a side note, later on in the video, I'm actually going to compare the Lego Game Boy versus a regular Game Boy. We're just going to see cosmetic differences and just how well they recreated. We're not going to say, oh, the original is better because it actually plays games. Like, no, they're 2 completely different products made by 2 completely different materials for 2 completely different purposes. We're just going to see how well did they Legoify a Game Boy. Just as a little side note. So inside of this box that was already inside of the box within a box, we have 3 of these lenticular displays. Now these 3 displays, they're not actually brick builds, and they're not stickers either, and they're not like weak pieces of paper. They're a bit sturdy cardboard. They're lenticular, so you could go a little bit DJ on them. And there's 3 different scenarios here. Firstly, we have the Game Boy's boot up screen. As you know, the Game Boy didn't have a main menu, but it did have a boot up screen with the Nintendo logo falling down. So as you move it, you see right there. I think this one actually has the most frames out of the 3 displays, which makes sense. We have a Super Mario Land display. Here we have Mario and World 1-1. I like how the time changes between the 2 seconds right there. We have some Goombas moving around, and Mario is jumping on a question mark block, getting a star. And we also have The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening one. I haven't played Link's Awakening myself, so I can't say where this is at. Maybe the credits, maybe an opening cutscene, I'm not sure. but we can see a bit of animation with the ocean and the birds as well, from what I can tell. And also little characters right there at the bottom. Very nice. Not a Zelda fan though. I'll tell you later how you could actually put any of these displays inside of the Game Boy, but we'll get there when we get there. Next we have these two stands. Now they're actually not as small or flat compared to the cartridges, but they're a little bit more boring, so let's just get them over with. Firstly, we have this console stand. As you can see, we have kind of like a temple shape here. It's fully black, there's no special colors. And we see this pin right there, basically, a pin brick. Push it down all the way. So what you do with this is that you can take the console, and you can see right there at the bottom with the headphone jack, you place this onto the stand, right there, and the console will just lean back right there, and it will just sit like that in a little angle, very diagonal angle, so that way you can have it nice on display. I like it, and I do like how easy it is to just place the console on the stand. Although the only main issue that I have with these stands is their color schemes. They're just black, they're not gray unlike the regular Game Boy itself. I kind of wish they were built gray so we can get gray versions of all these bricks, and that way you could kind of color match the style of the Game Boy a little bit. But we just have this boring black. And the second stand is this cartridge and screen stand. So what you could do is, you can already put one of these screens inside of the Game Boy, but the other two screens you are able to place here onto these slots right there. I bet you could put the third one as well. Update, the 3 displays do fit. And then you can take a cartridge and you can also place it right here, because the cartridges have a little bit of a connection point right there at the bottom. So you just put the cartridge, you gotta hear a little snap. It's a bit tricky to do one-handed. Right there, you'll lean back, diagonal angle, just like the Game Boy stand, and it'll just sit right there. The one complaint that I have about this stand is, well, this isn't really going to be a problem, because I bet you're going to have a cartridge inside and a game display inside of the Game Boy, meaning that you can have 2 extra screens in one cartridge here. But I do wish it had a way for you to hold both of the cartridges rather than just one, so that way you can actually have the screen display on this one with no cartridge, and you can just place both of the cartridges here, because if you have that, one of the cartridges is just going to stay loose. Eventually, I bet you're going to lose the cartridge even. Speaking of which, let's actually look at the cartridges. So we have a Super Mario Land cartridge and a The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening cartridge. Both of these cartridge artworks, as you can see, they both came from a sticker sheet. And what I like about this is that these are the only stickers included in the set. There's no other extra stickers. All the other little extra components that you can see, you know, Game Boy text, start, select, A and B, every single one of them is high quality printed components. None of them are loose stickers. I like that. I like how the set is very quality when it comes to the prints. I actually do own Super Mario Land myself, but it's not the American cartridge, it's the Japanese cartridge, and the logo looks a little bit different. I'll put up a photo on the screen of how it looks. It's not that different because the artwork is the same, but yeah. And for Link's Awakening, I just don't have it, literally. So I guess this kind of counts as my copy of Link's Awakening, not counting the Switch remake. I like how they include extra little details like, you know, codes on the side of these labels, made in Japan, and this side out as well. Very cute. And at the bottom of these cartridges, you can also see the connection points of where you will put them on either the stand or the Game Boy itself. And I also like how they put inside detailing right there in gold, kind of representing the inside pins of an actual cartridge. Very cool stuff. But it gets even cooler. So off camera, I took out this part here, the cartridge artwork for Super Mario Land. And as you can see, we have the pins right there, and we have the rest of the motherboard. Very nicely detailed with these little bricks. It may not seem like much, and especially when you're building, you may be confused, like, why are you putting colored bricks and then later just tapping it with this, with a sticker no less. But it's actually supposed to represent the motherboard. I actually do have an iFixit kit that has the screws necessary to open these cartridges, and I do remember opening a couple of my cartridges to see inside of the motherboard, and yeah, the process is very similar to what's inside of here. But it gets even cooler from here. So inside of the Link's Awakening cartridge, if you take out both the Game Boy logo right there and the cartridge artwork, you can see the motherboard is a little bit darker color compared to the Mario Land one. I imagine that's accurate. I don't have the actual cartridge to tell, but look! They put in an actual printed brick right there, little circular tab, with an actual clock battery. That is so cool. So back in the day with some of these Game Boy games, and even I'm pretty sure NES games as well, some of them had clock batteries like these, especially the Pokemon games, so that way you could save your progress inside of the cartridge, rather than using password saves, you know, with a little password or a code. Now eventually these batteries do run out and you do lose your saves, sadly, so that's why a lot of Pokemon cartridges may be corrupt and you need to like get inside and fix them, but I really like how they did that little detail. I mean, it's a printed component. Once you put these right there, you won't be able to see that. That's some next level detail, especially for a printed brick. So overall, these cartridges, especially the Link's Awakening one, they're both top notch. I love both of them. Alright, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for, the console itself. I'm gonna put it right here on the console stand just so it looks a little bit better on video. Right there. While I'm at it, I'm also gonna put the original right here as well, so we can do a nice side-by-side comparison between the two. So currently the Lego one, I have it with no display. I'm going to show you how you could put a display right here, but we have printed components for the on and off switch, the dot matrix with stereo sound text, the battery indicator, the Game Boy text right there, the logo. We have a lovely little D-pad right there, A and B buttons selecting start, and the headphone jack, and we have this great little speaker. Now, there's a couple of things that I like and dislike. Firstly, I don't like how the dot matrix with stereo sound text, the sound part is, you know, off. It's completely separated with another brick. Why not just have it one complete brick? And it also creates a little bit of an inconsistency. You can see here the text is completely straight, but on this one, sound is like a little bit up. It looks a bit weird. I don't like that. I don't know if it was done in order to save cost or something, but I'm not a major fan of how it turned out. A large point of praise that we can give to the Lego one is that it actually includes functional buttons. But as you can see, the A and B buttons, they tend to cave in a little bit if you press them hard, so... Whoops. Oh, look, I can't even get them out. Okay, I slightly fixed it, but we can see if we do gentle presses right there, they do work. The D-pad in particular actually works really well. This one doesn't like sink in unlike the A and B buttons. I like the feel of the D-pad. And for select and start is actually a bit funny because if I can take it out right here, you can see it's just a gray tire that's just shoved in right there. Now obviously on the original, every single one of these buttons felt nice to press. The D-pad was incredible, A and B don't sink in, and start and select are very soft. It's not unlike the Lego one. But I'm not going to give the Lego one minus points for that because, you know, it's just trying to mimic how it feels the best it can with the available bricks. And they didn't even have to put this feature in here. I'm pretty sure that the NES they released during the start of the Lego Mario line, I'm pretty sure that didn't actually have pressable buttons to my knowledge. So it's even more impressive that this one actually does have it. I'm pretty sure it's the first one, so... I like that it's there. Obviously it sucks that it, you know, barely works, but it's cool that they at least went the extra mile. Here's the difference. The speaker hole right here is a print. It's completely flat. On the original, it's actually molded. So that's cute. But I do like how they made it curvy, just like the original right there. Although the original curve is a little bit more, you know, sharp. It just goes whoop. But this one is just kind of like a mountain. Very soft. If we go to the top, we have our on and off switches. And on the Lego one, you have this nice little click right there. It's a bit loud, but it's very nice. It's also a bit hard to move it as it's on one of those pins, you know, those Technic pins. Things falling, but yeah. On the original, yeah, it's a lot easier to move. But again, not gonna give it minus points. And here's another difference. On the Lego one, if you move this to on, you see you just move it to on. On the original, if you push this on, it has some extra little plastic here because, well, I don't have an actual cartridge to show this, but The original cartridges right here on the top right, they had an open little area with incomplete plastic. The reason why is because if you actually put the cartridge inside of the console and then you pushed it on like this, the cartridge wasn't able to get out of the console and corrupt itself. Very nice little safety feature. I don't know if they removed it with later Game Boy models, but it's nice that they have it right there. Obviously that's something the Lego one can't replicate, so you could say we lost the feature, but still, not gonna give it minus points. I don't need to repeat myself. So on the left side, we have our contrast switch. So on the original, you can see that at a certain point, it stops spinning. So we can move it down and it stops. But on the Lego one, it infinitely spins. To my knowledge, this just doesn't stop. So we could just keep spinning and spinning and spinning the contrast. On the original, we can also see that below the contrast slider really, or switch, you can see that there's a bit of text for the DC input, but on the Lego one, it doesn't. It's built a little bit differently. As you can see, there's like multiple bricks. So they missed out on that detail. I don't mind because that one is just hard to read. And I know that some people may be angry about this. I don't know if I got this incorrect within the manual or anything, but as you can see, we have a gray stud right here for the DC input, but we have a black area right there in the original for the DC input. Thankfully though, from our leftover components, we actually have some leftover black studs. So give me 1 minute. Okay, so we can tell this gray stud right here, in order to frick itself, stay in your place. And look at that very easy little mod. Now it looks a whole lot more realistic, doesn't it? I like that. I'm actually going to keep this modification just like the turntable and the barrel delivery set. I checked on the bottom to see if there was any extra little graphics, but there isn't, other than this little molding for the headphone jack, which is already right there on the print, so that's accurate. On the right side, we have a similar part to the, contrast slider, where on the Lego one, the volume slider infinitely spins, while on the original, it eventually stops. Yet again, that's a good thing though. You wouldn't have max volume like this playing out of your Game Boy. That would destroy the speakers. And we can also see the extension connector right here for the link cable, where on the original, this was a separate component you could take off. Difficult doing one-handed right there. But on the Lego one, you can see it's kind of like one of those gold bars, but in gray. You could take it out if you, took out a few parts, but it's not as easy as the original, is it? And now for the back. So we already talked about the cartridge ports. Little difference is that the Lego one doesn't have any screw holes, but that's fine. It's just part of the build. We can see our battery compartment right here on the original. Don't have any batteries. Not bothered to putting any. And this is where I'm pretty sure the serial number of the original Game Boy would be. Now please note the serial number on this one. So you can see it has G19890421. Does that mean anything? I looked it up. So this set claims to have 421 pieces. 421, look at that. And wait a minute, this isn't just 4 random numbers. I mean, that 0 is a bit random, but look at this. 1989, that's 1989. And that G could be for, Game Boy. So I actually looked it up. And apparently, the original Game Boy did came out on April 21st, 1989. So not only do they reference the release date of the original Game Boy right here, but also the piece count is exactly the same, April 21st. That is super cool. I never realized that. Back to the features. Well, here we have just a bunch of molded text right there, which is obviously not here, but you can see right here we have the 1989 text right there for the year date. Exactly the same right there, so that's a reference. And the battery compartment isn't as easy, obviously, because we have all of these bricks right there as a nice little detailing. At least it's accurate in terms of their feeling. That's pretty much where the comparisons end, so I'm going to leave the original one to rest, and we're going to focus now on the Lego one to take a look at the swapping screens. So in order to place or swap or remove a screen, we need to take out this big old plate right here, with the reference. Then we see this little thing right here. We need to put this back, and now we want to select the display. I want the Super Mario Land display. So what we do, you take a display, you push it in like that. You also want to make sure that your screen is in front of those gray little studs of those few little components. Right there. It needs to be in front. Once done, you can put this down and you can place this cover back on right here. So now we turn it on. Just for show, you can see the Mario Land display. You can see the little animation. And for extra show, we actually take the Super Mario Land cartridge, put it inside, and we push it down. You'll hear a click. That's because it's clicking to those little pins right there. So let's do the click inside. Ready? Right there. So now you can see that we have Mario Land. Look at that. I know some people would scream at me if I didn't put every single one of the displays inside of the Game Boy. So here's what the boot up screen looks like right there. For my favorite, here's what the Super Mario Land display will look like with its cartridge. Got a bit of a glare right there. There we go. Kind of see it. There we go. It's moving. And finally, here's what the Link's Awakening display will look like inside with its cartridge. I do feel like the boot up screen had more little frames of animation though. And the glare is not helping this one bit. So if you want to take out a cartridge, all you have to do is this. Right there. And if you want to take out a display, take that. Do a yeet. The screen will yeet out of there. And you're done. So my friends, that is the LEGO Game Boy set reviewed. Finally. So sorry for the wait, but as they say, it's better doing it late than never. So let's go to the actual review-y part of the video. What do we think about this set as a whole, like general opinions? I like the building experience. I feel like this was way better than the Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine. That I had to build for my mom as a gift. And that thing was absolutely terrible. I don't want to do that thing again, and I really don't want to rebuild it. That thing is just a piece of crap. But this was beautiful. I liked all the different building techniques. I love all the high quality printing that it has, and while it definitely has a few inconsistencies that you have to fix, it's still a nice little set for display, and I like the added stands as well. As I said, I forgot to put this on its stand. Let's just go on. So for the pros, I like how it includes 2 games, I like all the high quality printing, and I like the 3 included displays, and the building experience was top notch. This was great. It wasn't too taxing compared to the Tuxedo Cat. I had to build 2 of those things, and how many pieces did that set have again? 1,710? That's ridiculous. Imagine that times 2. That's ridiculous. But this was just around 400, you know, as a release date reference. That was awesome. Very nice little set. In terms of the cons that I have with it, obviously the cartridge display cannot hold 2 cartridges, and you can't have the start screen, you know, right there inside of the console with no cartridge. You have to keep one loose. But also the price tag. So the regular $60 American price tag for this is actually no problem to me, but the Chilean price tag is what I have an issue with. So obviously I know this point is a little bit redundant because, you know, it's easy to complain about high prices, but this thing retails for, let me reveal it, 100,000 COP. And you want to know for reference? That is exactly the same price as the Hot Wheels Mario Kart Bowser's Castle Raceway that we reviewed earlier on the channel. I like this thing. I actually haven't used it too much, but I like it. I'm using it again now that I have more Mario Kart vehicles. But this thing, I feel like it was actually worth the 100 because, yeah, I got it on offer at 60, so it's even better. But the thing is that this thing was massive. This thing is actually kind of hard in order to put anywhere, you know. I had to squeeze it in between all this other junk that I keep. And it felt like it was worth the price due to its large size. You know, for the price of a Switch game that I got it on sale, I got a large size Mario Kart set with no batteries required. It was great. But this! I'm sorry, but this is the reason why I don't really collect Lego anymore, and why the rest of the Lego sets that I get, those are gifts. I got that as a gift from another person. That was not my purchase. While I was interested in looking at this, I'm not going to review it on the channel, obviously. I was just wanting it for myself, but I didn't buy it. This was a gift. I didn't put it on my wishlist or anything because of the prices. The Adults Welcome sets, while they are beautiful, they have a large amount of pieces, and they have some really great building experience. this thing in a nutshell, the prices are not worth what you're paying at all. So, I like Lego sets as they are, but I just don't want to collect or buy any more of them due to the prices. I've completely given up because of the high price tags. I'm glad that I got this as a gift from my mom as a great little purchase because I really did want this. And I do like it. I'm not going to play with it obviously because the buttons are crap. But the main part is the prices are just not worth it at all anymore. Hence why I kind of quit the brand and now I'm moving on to other things. In my personal opinion, I also think $60 is a little bit too high, but just a slight amount. It's not ridiculous, like the 100, equal to this. I think 40 would be a lot more reasonable because, this doesn't play any games. And, Nintendo Switch 2 games are now going for $80, but, that's another topic, so. I think 3/4 of a star will be fine enough. I do feel like this can be found on sale in several parts, like GameStop, Costco, or port back on the stores that you find and just wait for a sale. But I think 3/4 of a star will be fine enough. I love the references as they are, but the prices, they're a little bit too high. Especially Chile. That is just ridiculous, but 3/4 for now, I think it's fair. So that's the review on the Lego Game Boy. Sorry it took forever, but I liked it in the end. It's not a terrible purchase, unless you live in Chile, which I do. But it is what it is, so I hope you enjoyed the ride anyway. Thank you guys for watching, comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell since school is as school does. I now have memberships, click the join button below, and enter into the fan tier if you want shoutouts that I'm going to get to in just a moment. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace! I want to do tip shits. Special shoutouts to my fan tier members, Barbarita Lara M and Marcelara. If you want a shoutout, click the join button below and enter into the fan tier. Thank you guys.